You're listening to the Reflections on Resilience podcast, hosted by me, Rehmat Rayatt. This 3-part series provides a space for members of Hounslow's community to share their experiences of loneliness, isolation, and hope through the COVID-19 pandemic. The aim is to create connection between residents through the vulnerability and courage of sharing our stories, and we hope you, our listeners, find solace and affinity in the shared experiences you'll find here. This podcast is brought to you by Hounslow Creative People Places and funded by the Department for Digital, Culture, Media and Sport, distributed by Arts Council England. Listen on to hear from Jigyasa, Niina and Rita, and stay till the end to hear Niina perform her song Love You. So we're going to start with a check-in, and this check-in, the way that it works is we have a theme and then we use that theme to express how we're feeling right now. So my theme for today, I've chosen trees because trees are, they're things that really represent resilience because they can go through different types of weather and weather the storm. Have a think about a tree that represents how I'm feeling right now.
I thought of a tree, a willow, was the first thing that came to my mind. And because the willow sort of goes downwards, it grows up and it sort of gracefully goes down. And it seems like it's very fragile as well, the way that it moves. It's not like a big strong oak. I think the willow represents me because I think I'm very strong. I think I'm very flexible, and because of the way that the branches go downwards, I think that there's a sort of an innate sadness in just being an Asian woman, which needs to be maybe explored or talked about, with all the suppression and the misogyny that goes on in our culture. That's why I associate myself with the willow. So though it's strong, it's flexible, but it's also very sad. And when you look at it from a distance, it looks as if it's a very fragile tree with the small, thin leaves and the branches, as opposed to a big, strong oak.
The tree came into my mind. I don't know what it means, but the oak tree, that's the first thing that came into my mind. And I think oak tree is the one that releases conkers that everybody uses. So that's just how I feel right now. And even just in this season in my life right now, it's like I just feel like I'm that person that's just doing something for others, to accomplish what they need to do. So it's just a position where I feel that I'm able to do at the moment, just being there for others kind of thing.
I think that just leaves me. I was also going to say a willow tree actually, and Rita's explanation was more profound, but perhaps I also thought about the innate sadness of it. I suppose my main thinking was that it's quite heavy looking, the way when it droops, and it doesn't, fly too much in the wind, or it's not too disturbed. So something perhaps what is a bit solitary.
Thank you so much. I love the variation in the ways that we're kind of feeling right now in our experiences, and also the similarities. Like I love that, two of you picked the willow for kind of similar reasons, kind of different reasons. But yeah, it's nice to kind of get an idea of where we're all at. So let's introduce ourselves. So I'll start. My name is Rehmat. I am primarily a visual artist. So I studied photography as a degree and fell into filmmaking. And I've had a really amazing journey with my career, working within photography and filmmaking. And then in the last few years, I've been really interested in mental health and emotional well-being. And so I trained as a yoga and mindfulness teacher in 2019. And I've been kind of journeying into the kind of well-being realm through both my kind of creative side, so using photography and filmmaking as a basis for creative workshops, which kind of unlock conversations about mental health and emotional well-being, and also teaching yoga, teaching mindfulness, and practicing all of those things myself and noticing how they have supported me in different ways. and led to a deeper understanding of myself.
So I'm Rita, and I'm perhaps closer to 60 than I want to be. I'm a mother of 2 children, and I'm also a single mother. I've been a single mother for God knows what, 20 something years now. And I'm very, very unfortunate to know too much about mental illness, because there's family members that are very, very mentally ill. So that's made me very resilient, and it's actually showed me or taught me a lot about attitudes toward mental illness. And I've found that with Asian people, it's almost a hostile reaction towards mental illness. And it's almost as if people in our culture, they think that mental illness is contagious. They want to keep away from any conversations about mental illness. And they don't want to talk about it. They want to brush it under the carpet. It's your fault. You should have done better. Why don't you explain this to your relative? Why don't you make your relative do this? And they'll give you some homemade remedies, which always contain turmeric, which is the solution to everything. Turmeric and ginger, which is quite amazing. A friend of mine said something to me once. She said, you must talk about it, because if you don't talk about it, A, it'll drive you crazy, and B, somebody somewhere might have the key. They might say one sentence to you which might help you during that day, or that one sentence might help you during the week to help you cope, or give you a coping strategy, which is why I thought, well, yeah, it is. And I did get a lot of reaction from my family saying, just would you be quiet? We don't want to have these conversations. Would you just talk about Bollywood films or something nice when we're together? I'm like, but I don't watch these films. This is real. Guys, we got to help each other.
I am Niina, Kabesa. Let's just say I do quite a lot of things. I sing, I write, I'm a TV host, basically everything. I'm also a woman empowerment at the moment, trying to get all the women. So Rita, well done. I'm so proud. It's not easy. Everything you said, exactly what I fight for in my African, community. I have 6 children from 6 different men. And that just tells you the introduction of what I'm fighting for. So it's a fight for women, unfortunately. We fight for when we're giving birth, we go through all these things. So we're constantly having to fight. But I believe when we do come together collectively and we start talking about this mental challenging, because what you will find is the men are the one who need more education on how to be with women, how to be with the children, because the blame is always the mother, unfortunately. But that can change if women like yourself, Rita, myself, and all of us start talking. The problem is we need the conversation to start and keep going. Like, that's what we're here today to talk. So yeah, I'm just happy and excited.
So Niina, you said that we need to educate the men. I think we also need to educate the women. If you educate the women, because that's where the power is, where the woman is, because the woman, whether we like it or not, whatever we want to talk about, gender equality, whatever, it's the woman that has the power to bring up the child. And if we educate the women, not just about mental illness, but also about misogyny and how they life and how they talk about women and how they talk to women, I think the mothers have got the power first. And in our culture, in my culture, I see that the women, the mothers, they just want to cling on to their sons, their darling sons. And they cling on to them so tightly that they ruin this without knowing it. They think they're being loving, and they actually become the enablers for the son to be horrible to his wife. When I see full-grown women my age, approaching 60, blaming somebody else's. My son is on his 2nd divorce because wife number 2 was so bad, and my son is on his 3rd divorce, or because I was thinking, can you stop? And they don't see it. I don't think it's confined to the African, like you say, Niina, or to the Asian culture. Maybe it's a little bit more highlighted.
For me, the woman's issue is actually global, because I do have very different variety of friends, like Spanish, English, you name them. So I know it's a global thing. It is not just a singular thing, but if each and every person start to focus on where they are, because it's all the same. So we can all meet together, talk, have that one voice, but then take it back home and change it from there.
These are very important points which you raised, and I enjoyed hearing them because I empathize with them, I understand them, and especially lots of Rita's experiences are my own. Well, although you talk about it as a mother, I talk about it as a sibling and as a daughter. Anyways, I am Jigyasa, and I am currently a student, so I live between Hounslow and then Oxford, where I'm studying. And I am, first gen immigrant, and I'm from India. So obviously that's been a big shaper in who I am today, right?
Yeah, I'm so grateful to have this space of women of colour. We can have these conversations about our experiences of being diaspora and to notice lots and lots of similarities. I'll just lead a quick mindfulness exercise. So I would love for you to join in with this. When you're ready, you can close your eyes or just lower your gaze and just bring one hand to your heart and one hand to your belly. And we're just going to start to tune in to our bodies here. And we'll do a quick body scan here. So we're going to scan the body all the way down from the top of the head down to the tips of the toes. So we're essentially moving our attention, our awareness down the body, down the head, neck, shoulders, arms, into the fingers, down through the chest and the abdomen and the back, down to the hips and the legs and the feet, and finishing at the toes. And just scanning for any sensations, bringing awareness into the body. And once we get to the toes, we'll just move the awareness all the way back up again towards the head. And again, just noticing any sensations. Maybe you can feel the chair that you're sitting in. Just moving the awareness all the way up the body. And when you get to the top of the head, we'll take a moment to notice our breath. So just noticing your natural breath. It can be really challenging, but see if you can allow the breath to be natural. So not changing it, just allowing the breath to move in and out effortlessly. And notice how the breath is naturally. Does it feel quite fast, slow, somewhere in between? Does it feel deep or shallow, or somewhere in between? And I invite you just to notice how your breath feels, rather than attaching these kind of judgments to it. So just allowing the breath to be how it is, without judgment, without wanting it to be different. And I invite you now to spend a moment just listening for any sounds. So maybe you can hear some sounds which are close to you, maybe in your earphones listening to this podcast. Maybe you can hear some other sounds outside of that. And it might be that you can hear some sounds even further away. So just noticing any sounds, allowing them to come to you. And I invite you to bring your awareness now to your mind and just notice what's going on there, again, without judgment. So noticing any thoughts which are quite prominent for you, noticing any feelings, and just bringing awareness to our minds. Maybe you notice that your mind feels quite busy, or calm, or somewhere in between, and just allowing that to be. There's no right or wrong, there's no judgment. Just noticing where I am today. And when you're ready, we're going to take a few nice deep belly breaths. So we're breathing into the belly and feeling the belly expanding as we take a nice deep breath in through the nose and exhaling out through the nose. A couple more nice deep breaths, really expanding the belly with breath. And feeling the belly contracting as you breathe out. And I invite you now to send some encouraging words to yourself. Send something to yourself that you feel you need. So whether it's encouraging words, whether it's calming words, whether it's a hug, just noticing what you need and sending that to yourself. And when you're ready, you can gently flutter your eyes open and drop your hands down. Let's start with our first question. How have you found lockdown?
We've been in the pandemic now for so long that it has just become, there have been so many phases, so many different experiences throughout. And I think one thing, what I can say is that there were times what were very difficult. We've all had sort of real people problems. And I think a lot of the advice through this situation was about, maybe cater to people who weren't having too many problems, cater to people who were a bit lonely or a bit sad, and kind of a lot of the advice that was coming through, or the kind of regulations and the rules, perhaps didn't take too much into account people like us who were struggling with bigger things. So I think a lot of the time I felt disappointed and helpless at many points.
So I've gone from, during lockdown, from having a very, very busy life. I would have left the house at 10 to 7 in the morning and come back home at 7:30 in the evening, sometimes even 7:45. So, and then suddenly to be locked up almost from having such a hectic life and traveling, on various forms of transport before having my first cup of coffee. And it was, at first it was a bit of a shock, and then it was quite a novelty. It felt like you're on holiday. And then it started to become quite stifling. And not just stifling, it was quite scary as well, because I got addicted to listening to the news And I kept telling myself, I'm not going to listen to the news today, but it was something you'd never in a million years would have thought. In a million years. A pandemic, I mean, that happened in 1918. That's not going to happen again. And then slowly started dawning on you that, no, you know what? It's humans. We have taken over the planet. We've taken over the space that belongs to the animals. And of course, if we're going to mix, it's so logical. It's not something that's been cooked up in a laboratory. It is what was going to happen. It's so natural. It's just nature taking its course. And that made me actually think more about becoming not religious, but more about spirituality and how we should share ourselves. And I started thinking, I really don't, it's not fair. We shouldn't really be eating these meats, we shouldn't be really doing this. Although I must stress that I'm not vegetarian, but I do try very, very hard. And it was quite painful. It was quite painful to keep thinking how this happened, why we are where we are.
How was it for me? Similar to you, Rita, in a way, because I was a very active person. Most of the time I had clients. I'm a life coach, accredited life coach. So I tend to have clients 3 on a Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Sometimes I travel to them and I studio time, everything else. And then the lockdown came. Like you said, yes, at first it was like, yes, free holiday, government is going to sort us out, the self-employment people, cool, yeah, free holiday. But then when it comes to it, then you're like, okay, the holiday has to stop at some point. And then progressively, then that's when it hit me. Then, it was like there were times when I just didn't even want to come out of my bed because I'm like, what's the point? And then I put a quote on Facebook once and I say, every day is every day now. Because I lost track on what day of the week it was. And it was serious. And I'm like, no, if I keep going like this, I'm going to lose my mind. So I started doing online courses. And then I pushed myself on my iPhone now to start learning how to make like melodies and beats and things. Just kept my mind going because I realized that the lockdown was a way of shutting down a lot of people's mind so that they can control. So as long as my mind was occupied in rather, getting knowledge and functioning and keep going, when we finally go out, when the lockdown is finished, I will be okay to adapt myself to whatever it is we're going to be coming out to, because a lot of things have changed out there. Because remember, we're not moving. In our mind, we're constantly thinking of the old, maybe Piccadilly circus that we used to go to, but it has changed. And then we're about to be smacked with a whole new different world out there. New train station coming in, so many things. So all of that is enough to make anyone melt down, anyone to get anxiety, because you think you're going to a world that you once knew the roots, but now it's actually different. I have a background of panicking a little bit because there was a time in my life where I was being stalked. For 3.5 years, I never went out of my house. So when I stepped out of my house, it was like, everybody's looking at you. You're like, oh my God. And at the time, like we said, from African background, they didn't know that it was an issue, it was a challenge. Why was I not going out? No one would tell me. So I was just locked in my room, So it's one of those. So I didn't want to fall back then to what it been. So I knew that I had to keep my mind going and see how it goes. So fingers crossed, we're going to come out.
And Niina, I know that you had a really interesting time at the beginning of lockdown because you were pregnant.
Yeah, I was. And, the pregnancy came 6 weeks before. So I had a premature birth, which I've never had in my life. I'm a very, very healthy person. And I ended up in a coma. And, I came back 2 days after. And my child and I didn't see each other until after like 2 weeks because he was shut off somewhere else and he was in a coma as well. So we both were like communicating at the same time. So when I came out, he came out, so we were like that. And eventually we met each other. People thought that I had coronavirus. I had over 5 coronavirus tests in a hospital, isolated, no family, no nothing. And I just kept seeing trees on the walls and I couldn't tell them because I knew if I tell them it would be something else. So I knew, because I'm a life coach as well, so I know certain therapy techniques that I used to give to clients, so I applied it on myself. I had to basically just be strong in mind and keep visualizing me out. I didn't think of any negative that were coming to me because there was a lot of negativity. My gosh, I was surrounded by so much negativity. They were telling me how my son will have some problem with neuro, whatever it is, that there was something wrong with his leg. I was just receiving all you could, and I was just sitting there and I'm thinking of my other kids that left at home. At that time, I didn't speak to them, so I don't know what they're thinking. So by the time I got hold of them, they all were crying, said that they told them that I died. So it's just a whole mess. It was, oh my gosh, it was an event, honestly. It really was. When I look back now, I'm like, where did I get all this strength?
Yeah, because that must be really tough, is just thinking that your mum's gone, and then first of all to accept that your mum is gone, and then to accept that your mum has actually come back as well, which can be equally as hard because you put your mind in a state that now you're going to live without your mother. And then you have to completely come out of that and say, oh, actually, I was wrong. Mum's back. So that must be really tough for the children. So you didn't actually have coronavirus, but they thought you had.
I think they didn't think that I had it. They just wanted to use my healthy body for the experiment, honestly.
I was one of the first people back in February that had coronavirus. And I'm convinced I caught it on the underground. There's no other place I would have caught it, being stuck on the underground without any windows open, packed in like sardines. And when it hit me, and I was thinking, oh my goodness, that could have been the end of me. That actually could have been the end of me. And that's not being dramatic or not trying to get any sympathy or anything like that. It was an actual fact, because there was somebody who I know 6 years younger than me, dead. My next door neighbours, husband and wife, dead. A distant uncle, dead. I know 7 people around me that, are you sure? All you'd hear was, that this person is dead. And there was somebody else that my brother was telling me, his next door neighbour, he said he was talking to him on Saturday, same age group as me, maybe give or take a few years. He said, we're having a lovely conversation in the garden on Saturday, on Tuesday, his wife tells us 4 days later that he's dead. So it was a lot to be grateful for, that I actually had my health and that I'm even here today, even though I think if somebody else heard you saying that, they'd be like, oh my God, what's wrong with you? Do you ever say things like this? But you just thank your lucky stars that you're here. And today I've got quite severe problems because of the coronavirus. It ate into my lungs. But it took a long time because, again, being an Asian woman, you just think, I don't feel very well, but just carry on anyway. I don't feel very well, but carry on anyway.
Can I ask you all to share one thing that supports you and one thing that gets in the way? So one thing that has been really helpful for you in this time, and one thing that has been really challenging or really difficult for you.
Not being able to have my respite from my children, to just step out and do what I usually do all the activities I used to do, meet adults, because being a single mom, you tend to surround yourself with children, but an adult conversation does make you feel alive. So not being able to do that really did get out of my way, because then I had to move from them going to school and me having that time for myself to just having them all the time. And that's when it hit me, say, oh yes, I really have got 6 children, and again, it's finding the balance and finding, how am I going to do this? God, I was like, God, give me the strength, give me the strength. I don't know how I'm going to do this. I do it during the holiday because I know the holiday is only 6 weeks, it's only 2 weeks, but I'm doing this for a whole year. And I felt somewhat disappointed as well to the government, especially when we had to do the homeschooling for the kids. That I did not like as much, because I felt like government did not help single parents or any parents as much, because it's technology. Okay, I'm literate technology, but there's many parents who aren't, and you're asking them to do activities that the teachers whom you're paying to do to your kids. And I really didn't like that, and all those things really was not really nice for me, because it's like I'm self-employed and I have to work for myself, but I had to stop it because I had to teach my child. we needed support, you know, just even if it's just to have somebody to talk to on a weekly basis. And we didn't get that. And we just felt like left alone and do it all. They are your children after all. You know, I just felt I didn't like that. But aside to that, the happy part was I was surrounded by love, of course, you know, and, you know, everybody bonded, everybody got to see, you know, the other side of people that you probably didn't see, and everybody finding ways of getting along with it. I think that was great. And then, you know, those that we couldn't see, we could do video call. Like my mom, she has a habit of always coming. She's 66, so she always has a habit of always coming over every single day to see her grandchildren, and she wasn't able to do that, but we had a video call, you know, so we still kept love going amongst ourselves and managed something. So yeah, being surrounded by love and friends, that was the plus for me.
Support during lockdown was the iPhone. It was so great to be able just to see my family. When I was very ill with coronavirus, I didn't actually realize how ill I was. My sister, who's in California, actually telephoned my brother, who's only 2 miles down the road, and said, she's not very well, she needs some food. But because you're ill yourself, you can't look after yourself because you're so ill. You don't know how many days you've been lying there, you know, you're drinking water, you know, you're popping the Panadols. But it took somebody else to actually see what you were looking like, to see yourself, to see how bad you are, really. So the iPhone really helped. And I kept that going. Every day I had regular calls. You know, I had a time when I would call my sister in California at a certain hour. And then I had other friends that would call me on their way home, or some of my friends were still working. So that kept me going a lot, just knowing that we were going to speak to each other, going to see each other, and actually tell each other off. Mostly I was on the, getting a Roller King saying, look at you, you look terrible, go and comb your hair, or have you eaten today, or have you done whatever, you look really down, or etc. But the deep, ingrained process, the sort of like brainwashing that we've got, is just to keep quiet and not tell anybody what you're going through. So that silence of not asking for help was, it was a hindrance for me as well. But also, on the other hand, it's made me stronger because you're not used to asking for help. And by keeping quiet, it was a way of actually supporting the family. It's not asking for anything yourself. My garden kept me going as well. That was wonderful because last summer during lockdown, we had an amazing weather, beautiful sunshine, and that was quite unbelievable actually. I just don't know how to put it into words how wonderful it was just to be able to sit outside in the fresh air and watch the garden growing, watching the flowers, and just be able to sit outside. And then I was always watching the news thinking, gosh, I should count my blessings because they were talking about so many people who were living in flats who didn't even have a balcony. The heat was stifling. They could just open their windows. These flats were not designed very well. And I just kept saying to myself, I've got a lot, even though I've been so ill, I've got an awful lot to be grateful for. I just thought, well, what was it that I wanted to do? Okay, I just wanted to do some calligraphy. Well, okay, you've got, all it takes is a pen and a piece of paper, really, and you've got all the tutorials on YouTube. So I started doing that, and I found that very relaxing, very calming as well, just to have just a pen. Everybody's got a pen in their house, and just to sort of like draw away. I'm not a very good drawer, but just to practice my calligraphy or even learn about calligraphy. What got in the way? I'll tell you what got in the way is me. I realized that the only boundaries that there are to anything that you want to do is all in my mind. Nobody was stopping me from doing anything except for myself.
I think one thing, what has been a challenge, I'll start with the challenge, has been moving between Hounslow and Oxford, because my lives in these two places are very different. I feel very lucky to be staying in Oxford and all the support that I have to be here, and the financial stuff and the place where I stay and all of this. But then to move to Hounslow, it's a different, lifestyle. It's a whole nother world, and, a whole different background. And I think that's definitely been difficult that's been a big challenge to switch between the two, to go home and have to attend classes from an environment where it's been very difficult to have a private space, have a quiet space. And when you have so much life going on, when you have responsibilities that a lot of other people don't have or don't understand, to explain that to people who, these things don't even cross their mind. It's like going home, the worst thing for them about leaving university might have been not seeing their friends, which of course sucks, but for many of us there are so many more problems. I had responsibilities to care for someone who was not very well, who was also struggling with their mental health. And of course I had to go and live my life. I had to go to university and I couldn't go back and forth. That was definitely difficult. And so I think that's, just being able to talk to that person still in any kind of remote way meant a lot. And then I think something what has helped me has been directly related to that is a sort of recent people starting to become aware that people live lives and that people, have their own problems, and there's finally an awareness on that and considerations from people. We see people in the news now talking more about these problems and how certain groups are more affected by it. And I think that's definitely been a change that has been positive.
I was also reminded when I was very, very young, back in the day, they used to record on cassettes messages, and anybody who was flying back home, they would give them a cassette and send it, here you are, so that our mother can actually hear our voice. And then the person who was actually traveling there would record my grandmother's voice and bring it back. And technology in those days, it was really strange because I was very, very little, I just think, but she's not saying much, because it's so hard to speak into a tape recorder without getting any feedback. So I really clung on to this and thinking how lucky we are to have this communication, how absolutely lucky we are, and how it saved many people. And with WhatsApp and all these things being free, we didn't have to worry about the cost of things as well.
That just reminded me that, so my mother lives here in England with me, and my grandmother, her mother, lives in India. And, they're not able to see each other very much, right? And communicate very well, especially as my grandmother, she didn't have a smartphone. She didn't really know how to use a smartphone. She got one over this pandemic time. My mother taught her how to use WhatsApp, and they were able to see each other's face after so long. And we were all so excited. We saw the phone. We said, Nani's on the phone, Nani's on the phone, because it was such a miracle for us to, so even though times have moved forward, I think for a lot of people, like Niina said, technology isn't something that they, especially people who are, elder than us, it's not something that they can use with the same ease that we can.
What have you learnt about yourself?
It gave me this flashback of how my life was. And I kept constantly now saying, oh, that old girl died. She's gone. This is a new girl. I've come with a new energies. I've got this. I have to live life. I wasn't living before. I was living for people. But like you said, I had a whole year of looking within myself. Who is Niina? What did I want? What do I want out of my life? It's good to be nice, but then, it's also good to be nice to yourself first. I don't think I knew my strength. I don't think I knew my resilience. I don't think I even knew the capacity that I have in my mind to be strong. And it has been tested. And I now know that, I know my strength.
There have been a few friends and a few family where I've been really surprised by the extent to which they are willing to, extend a hand to help you out. I've seen some help and support in places I never imagined it. I've seen some people care for me more than I've cared for myself, or I thought, why do you care to ask me how I am? Why do you care to see how this new change is affecting me? So I've been very grateful for that. But hearing you talk, Niina, I think the thing, like you said, I've been most grateful for is myself, because you realize in these situations that despite all of that, at the end of the day, it's you. At the end of the day, it's you who is your best friend. It's you who has to go about life, and I think, unfortunately, sometimes it takes all these bad things for you to see that and for you to become yourself. And I do feel that I've walked away a little bit more untouchable, a little bit more like, you know what, no matter what comes, I'm all right, we'll manage. I feel that I spend a lot of time wasting away and being miserable and thinking, oh, why am I so unlucky? But you have the power to do a lot more than you think. Often there needs to be help, of course. We all go through hard times, but I think we all have more power than we are made to believe. And that's been very nice to discover. And life's not over, right? Even after coronavirus ends, it's not like all our bad things are gone away. Bad things, unfortunately, keep cropping up in life. So I think I've learned how to deal with it and keep moving forward.
Oh, I love that.
I love that too. Yeah, I love that. Untouchable. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, just hearing the strength and the resilience which has come from a time which I know probably many of us share this feeling of like not knowing when it's going to end, but knowing that we are, hopefully coming out of the other end, having, with some new skills and some new learnings. I would like us to all share one thing, so only one thing that we do when we're feeling low or lonely or isolated to kind of pick ourselves up.
I listen to the radio and I listen to upbeat music. Put my headphones on and I know no matter what's going on, a lovely song is going to come on and I'm going to start humming along to it, and that normally pulls me out of the bad mood. So it's listening to music.
Music was also going to be mine, and I often get quite embarrassed looking at myself because I put some music on and I find myself sort of alone in my room, jumping around, bouncing off the walls. And I'm like, what am I doing? But I think the power it has to put you in a good mood, and I don't know. I've been surprised by how wonderful it can be just to listen to some good music.
Yeah. Me, it's music. I mean, I always tell people I am music. So yeah, music is for me, honestly. It has been from a very younger age. So music has always been my escape. When I have this on, you can talk to me. I just go to a different world and then I come back fully energized. It's just music is for me.
So what advice do you have for other people who might be struggling with loneliness and isolation?
I would say reach out. If you're sitting at home and alone, and because I've been there and I've had these dark, horrible thoughts, which, you might look at me and say, oh, she's a strong, resilient person. I've had these thoughts thinking, well, am I needed anymore? Would the world does anybody really need me? No. Does anybody really want me? No. And just maybe the world would be a better place. It would be better for me. It would be better for me, actually, if I just closed my eyes and just fell asleep. And it would all be over. How easy that sounds, and how relaxing and how peaceful it sounds if you're not here anymore because you're in such a low place. The advice I would just say is just pick up the phone and reach out. You don't have to say to somebody, actually, I just had this thought that the world would be a better place without me. And, I just want to take a burden off everybody. You don't have to say that. You just have to say hello. And then start talking about the weather or the screaming kids or the awful dinner that you've just had. And then that one phone call, even if it's to your friend or to a neighbor or to the Samaritans or whoever you make that contact with, it will pull you out, and it will pull you out from that moment which is so intense. Only if you've been through it can you actually feel how strong that pull is. I'd just like to say to anybody that's listening to this podcast that it doesn't matter how bad you felt today or how bad you're feeling right now. It really doesn't matter, because you know what? tomorrow is a brand new day, and tomorrow when the sun comes up, everything is going to be forgotten about. It's going to be a clean slate. So just leave it all behind you and look forward to the new day, because when the sun rises, it doesn't bring the weather with it. You know, yesterday's weather, it's gone, it's over, and tomorrow is going to be a brand new day for you to do whatever you want to do.
Yeah, and if I also could just be adding on what Rita is saying, because we've all been there. I've definitely been there for what you're describing there, and I'm not gonna lie about it. And you know, I've been there, tried it so many times to, you know, just remove myself from here, because and then one thing in my therapy will help me, and it may help anyone listening, or it may not, but just find help. Reaching out is really great, but also ask yourself, who told you all the things that we think to ourselves? Because my problem was I used to self-sabotage and self-hate me, but I didn't know it was because of what I'd gone through. You know, what people, how they treated me, how they, you know, malhandled me, that made me to think that, yeah, maybe that's how I am, maybe that's who I am. But then you sit there, even when these people have done what they've done and they're far gone, and you're still there year in and year out, still thinking the same. Then I had to keep asking myself, okay, some of them are even already dead. So who is telling me these things? That this is who I am, I'm nothing, and you know. So yeah, when I started asking myself that question, and I'm like, okay, nobody. Then I realized then that it's me who is the problem. So I started working on myself. But reaching out is the first thing. Once you reach out and you start talking, you will find out that, you know, there's definitely nothing to do with external, but it's just you. Just focus, be centered in yourself, and you will be fine, because you're needed. Everybody is needed. We're all connected, one way or the other. We are all needed. Somebody went ahead of us before, who went through probably what we went through, even worse, and you know, and they made it. And we're going to go through it again, and we're going to do the same, and there'll be generation coming after us. It's going to be, but then we need to just have a bunch of people just keep talking, and we're going to make it. We're going to make it. I made it. I couldn't believe it, but I made it. I've got 6 kids. I can't believe it.
I think it's very true what you said. You don't have to start with, this is me, these are all my problems, this is everything that's happened to me. You can just say who you are and how you feel today. At the same time, though, I would like to say that for a long time in my life, I had trouble talking about anything bad, you know, anything bad that had happened to me, anything bad I was going through. You know, I felt that I couldn't talk to people about my problems. And I started to meet people who could, so candidly. Like today, Niina and Rita, both of you, have just said so many difficult parts of your life. You know, they just rolled off. For a long time, I didn't have that, and I didn't understand. And it's not the most important quality. You can keep things within you and heal that way. But I think there is something very good and very therapeutic about saying, you know what, this bad thing happened to me, it's done. Or you know what, this bad thing's happening to me right now, and that's the truth. Not turning up and someone, you know, asks you how you are and you pretend that you're okay, but being honest about, you know what, I'm not actually doing that good. And often I think we can feel bad about this, like we are offloading, and that you don't want to make someone feel bad. But I think really that's a silly reason to carry so much weight, you know, to protect other people, when really you should be able to say, this is what's going on with me. You know, whether you know how to handle it or not, that's you, that comes from you, but this is me, and this is who I am, and this is what's happened to me, and that's the full picture, right? Not this polished, covered up version of yourself which you try and present, and what I tried to present for many years before I could say, you know what, my life's not all that great. I've got stuff that I need to do and stuff that I'm going through that I need you to accommodate and understand. So I think, yes, saying hello is the first step. And hopefully eventually you can get to a point where you can talk about your problems and be honest about them and not feel that you have to hide.
Hearing so much, you know, that resonates with me. And I definitely agree with reaching out. And I think also just to build upon what you've all said and just share that we are never alone. Sometimes we might feel alone. But hearing from all of you, I have so many similar experiences or similar sort of feelings. And I just want to just take a moment to mention that if anyone is ever struggling, they can always call Samaritans on 116 123 or text shout to 85258. These are free and anonymous resources, and they're always open. So if anyone listening or anyone who's part of this podcast ever feels they need that support, they can always go to those two sources and many more which you can find online. I think we'll close by doing something which I call affirmations. So the way it's going to work is that I'm going to affirm myself for a trait that I appreciate in myself. And then I'm also going to affirm someone else. So I'm going to send it to someone, and then the next person will affirm themselves, and then they will send it to someone else, and we'll go around in a circle. Okay, so I affirm myself for, I think I pride myself on being a really good listener. So yeah, I affirm myself for that trait of mine. And I will choose you, Jigyasa, and I affirm you for doing something which I think has been a little bit out of your comfort zone in sharing some of the things that you have today. And I really see a real strength and resilience in you. So thank you for that.
Wow, thank you. That's so wonderful to hear. I think I'd like to affirm myself and you know, I've not always been this way, but I feel that I've gotten there now to be able to understand other people and care for other people, or try my best. So I'd like to affirm that quality of trying to understand and trying to help as best as you can other people as well as yourself, because it's important. I'd like to send an affirmation to Niina. I think this must be the affirmation of bravery, which I think also goes to all of you. But I think the stories which you have said really show not just being brave for yourself, but the kind of bravery you've had to have for your children has been really inspiring.
Thank you. Thank you. That's very nice. Thank you. If I was to affirm a good trait that I have, is I'm gonna affirm the trait of loving everyone. I'm the kind of person who have been brought up and raised in moments, difficult moments. I've witnessed wars, I've witnessed so many things in my life, and it has not really made me to hate. And I've always have a loving and caring heart towards people. It doesn't matter what race you are or what background you come into. So I will affirm that trait of mine, the loving trait. And then I'm gonna send it to Rita, and I'll affirm to you. I don't know, it's just how I feel that I'll affirm to you the trait of spirituality. You may not know it or you may not see it, but you're so spiritually in line with yourself and so many things. I mean, just listening to everything you were talking about today, the fact that somebody can call you and just see it through your face goes to show that you're so spiritually awake and aware. And I find spiritual people who are so aware and awake just connects with people without even having to say anything. So I will affirm that spiritual awakening and awareness in you.
Thank you for that, Niina. My affirmation is my can-do attitude. I've always had this attitude as like, well, I can do it. I might not want to do it. I might not like it, but I will do it. So that's my biggest attitude. But I can't find one person of all three of you to affirm something to. So I've got something for all of you. For Jigyasa, I just can't believe how young you are. You know, you're sitting here, I mean, I'm a grandmother, and you're understanding everything that I'm going through. You're sharing yourself. Your shoulders are really, really strong. You've got a really strong head on those shoulders, and it feels like for your youth, you're carrying a lot. I don't know much about you, or this is the first time I've seen you, but this is what I can see in yourself. For Niina, I'd like to affirm the way that you cope. You've got 6 children. For goodness sakes, you've been in a coma, you know, you're working from home. And so I'd like to just salute you, hats up for you for coping. How do you do it? And for Rehmat, it's just like, where do you get your serenity and your calmness from? How do you have the understanding just to link everything together, just to be calm and quiet, and just like in the background, you're just knitting something together, just knitting it all together and bringing everything together, and then towards the end of it, the sort of person that nobody notices because they're quietly knitting away, and then suddenly they just pull this thing out of the bag and say, here you are, I've just produced this. So there's my affirmations for all of you ladies.
Oh, thank you. That's so lovely. Really, really lovely to hear. And I really feel how we've connected in this, you know, this time that we spent together. I feel so grateful and lucky to have spent this time with you all. I will hand over to Niina to finish off with a song.
So the title is actually Love You, as in love yourself. So it was a journey that I was going through, and I discovered that the light was inside of me. And then, you know, the dark moment of my life, you know, I really felt that was it. You know, then when I discovered the light was inside of me, then here I am. Loving myself is what brought me out to be where I am today.
I got this. Abuse brought confusion in my soul. Lonely I once was lost in this world. Spoke with my action and I was broken. Even this song isn't half of who I am. My life is a journey, lost my way, want to mend. Never was I afraid of this darkness, 'cause I found out that the light was inside of me. So I started with loving me. Hey, oh, love me. Won't you start with loving you? Hey, oh, love you. Then you'll see how easy love is when you love yourself. Start with loving you. Hey, oh, love you, love you. I know you're hurting. I know he, she, they done you wrong, and you don't know why. Ha, ha, ha. Never regret the love you give, 'cause the universe is framed with love. Just be sure that what you put in it will come back to you. So if you sow love, rest assured it will hold you up to the point that he, she, they will become all about you. My life is a journey, lost my way, want to mend. Never was I afraid of this darkness, 'cause I found out that the light was inside of me. So I started with loving me.
have a voice on you.
Yeah, that was a wonderful song.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much to all of you for joining me today for this podcast. Have a lovely rest of your day, and hopefully connect with you all soon.
Lovely meeting you all. Thank you.
Lovely to meet you all. Hopefully we'll see each other. Hopefully when we're all out.